I realized today that for the past few months, all of my videos have been about heartbreak. I've just been kind of losing it. So let's talk about something else. Dissociation. I don't think we've ever talked about this on here, even though I'm constantly dealing with it and I've done it even on camera before. In fact, one of y'all actually asked a question about dissociation, and while I'm a little late, maybe a lot of late, I'm finally answering it. If you're living with a dissociative disorder, if you have a friend or a family member who's living with dissociation, or if you're just curious about what dissociation is, then this video is for you. For me personally, dissociation is almost these days a daily thing that I think I have somehow rationalized into being the norm when it should not be the norm. It's very serious, it's very scary. It can be the cause for a lot of life's problems when you have a mental illness, but I think the frequency in which I've been dissociating and the spectrum to which you can dissociate makes me just want to laugh at the fact that we're talking about it right now. Because it's bruh. If I had to explain dissociation in terms of the conversations I internally have and internally reflect on with my brain and myself, or those two things aren't different, but with dissociation, it feels like they're different, bitch. So point blank, what is dissociation? What does it mean to have a dissociative disorder? Dissociative disorders or mental illnesses where you're experiencing a disconnect of continuity between thoughts, actions, and just like consciousness. Is how I understand it. The general consensus, and I think this is true for me like 60% of the time, dissociation or dissociative disorders are developed because of trauma or something that happened where you quite literally, in order to preserve the brain and to preserve your fucking mental sanity, need to dissociate from reality, separate yourself from reality of what is happening in order to get through it. It's a reaction to what has been difficult, and by difficult, that's like an understatement. It's a reaction to the worst of the worst. Think of it as the brain's mental way of protecting you. I think of dissociative disorders and dissociation on a spectrum in the sense that not all of my dissociations or not all of the ways that I have it dissociated, either voluntarily or involuntarily, have looked the same. There are three main types that are categorized or defined by the DSM, what the fuck does the DSM stand for? The Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. If you're unfamiliar, that's how we come to understand mental illnesses and define them and classify them and quantify them and all that jazz. There are three main types of dissociative disorders. There is depersonalization, derealization disorder, there's dissociative amnesia, and the third is dissociative identity disorder. If you experience dissociation or if you're experiencing dissociation, you're probably experiencing one of these three. So first, depersonalization, derealization, amnesia. What is it? Essentially, it's exactly what the fuck it sounds like. It's a detachment from, it's your detachment or one's detachment from their own life, quite literally. The best way I think it's explained is that you are from the outside looking in. Kind of like a weird trip if you've ever tripped. If you don't know what that means, then you don't know what that means. But essentially, you're on the outside looking in. You feel numb. You feel emotionally not connected. It feels as though you're watching yourself, like you're a character in a movie, living but not living. Which is, I guess, I don't know. It's how I've experienced life most of my life. So, am I dissociating most of the time? Who knows? I joke. Some of the symptoms with this are concentration and memory, not lost completely, but again, gaps within them. I think of it as glitches, like the shit is glitching. For many, and I think this has happened for myself, time tends to slow down, you feel spacey, you feel foggy. It's almost like a dream. Hopefully all of that makes sense. Dissociative amnesia is when a person cannot remember something about a traumatic event or a traumatic period in their life or a traumatic thing. They have dissociated essentially from the entire thing by just not remembering it. However, they are aware that they are experiencing memory loss. It's not like they don't know it didn't happen, but they don't know the details or the feelings or the thoughts around it, but they are aware that they don't remember that. They just are like, I don't know. This can last from a few days, a few weeks, months, 1 to like many years. There's really just no telling. With dissociative amnesia, there's like 4 subtypes. There's localized amnesia, and this is when the person has no recollection of the traumatic event at all. Like they can't recall it at all. There's selective amnesia. This is when the person has a patchy or glitchy understanding or memory of what happened with the traumatic event. Essentially, the traumatic event in their memory is incomplete. There's generalized amnesia, which is that they just don't remember parts of their life. Or rather, they are having trouble remembering details of their entire life. And then there is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, systematized amnesia, which is that a person doesn't remember a very specific part of their life or traumatic event. Like, it's very specific. Like, I don't remember this person. Like, I don't remember this person being in my life. I have no idea who they are. And then the last one, which honestly I said, I think I've experienced all three of these. This is not true because I have not experienced this last one, which it didn't really occur to me when I said it. But dissociative identity disorder, I don't think I've ever had this. I don't think I've ever experienced it. It's, it's very highly debated amongst researchers. And there's just a lot on this one that I don't understand. But dissociative identity disorder is when you're literally dissociating in the sense of your identity. So you have, I'm not sure if dissociative identity disorder is the same thing as multiple identity disorder. Dissociative identity disorder is the same thing as multiple identity disorder, I believe. I think they just updated the name of it. And it's the most severe out of all of them. But essentially, it's what it sounds like. It's the existence or that person's existence of two or more identities within the same person. So two or more identities existing within the same person. The two personalities exist within the same person, but they're just not aware. And the switch typically occurs when there's stressful periods in their life, and then they'll switch to that person unannounced to themselves, they'll switch. I don't really feel comfortable talking on this one because I really do not know that much more about it. But I would love to know if anybody in the comments wants to share their experience. For me personally, I think the one that I have the most experience with would have to be the depersonalization, derealization disorder part, or in like that whole area. And that's the one where you feel foggy, feel out of sorts, feel out of your body experience. And y'all have probably seen that on here. And if you haven't seen that on here, I mean, it's definitely on here, not on purpose. It's just that, like, editing is a lot, y'all. In a nutshell, I'll be sitting here talking to y'all and I will either, okay, this might fall under dissociative amnesia, but sometimes I'll just be talking and then I'll forget what I'm talking about. And when I say I forget what I'm talking about, I mean, I literally forget why the camera's on, what we were even discussing. I'll just be talking and then I'll just be like, wait a minute. I'm sitting here talking to y'all about what again? And this has happened. Unfortunately for me, this is a new thing. It's like people always lose their train of thought, but I feel like it's more severe than that. And I wish I could explain it in a way that would make sense as to why you can understand how it's more severe, like the differentiation. But it happened after 3 years ago, after I had a whole blue thing in my life, the incident, if you watch this channel regularly. I started to forget things about just where I was as a person and my status as what the fuck was going on in my world, in my reality. This would happen when I was talking to people. It was embarrassing at work. It was embarrassing on phone calls. Quite literally, let's say someone called me about a mobile order for food. We would be talking. I would say, oh yeah, I'll meet you downstairs, blah, 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 blah. And they'd say, okay, what's the gate code? And then I would be like, who the fuck am I talking to? Like, I have no idea who's calling. It's so embarrassing because it's happened on small things like that, like a food order. Of course you know what you're talking about because it was bad. But it would also happen to me when I was driving, which was really bad. I would literally have to pull over on the side of the road and sit there and think, where was I driving to? Like, I have no idea where I was driving to. And it's not the same loss. You know how you drive and you kind of dissociate and you're just driving on autopilot and you're like, wow, I'm glad I stopped at stop signs. I'm glad I stopped at stoplights because I wasn't even thinking about driving. I wasn't conscious about driving. It's not like that. It's worse. I had to literally pull over because am I going the wrong way? I have no idea why I'm in this car. I have no idea. It's kind of like, you know how you go into a room and you forget why you went into that room to get something? It's that, but more severe. It happens to me and when I say it happens to me, it's happened less now and it's been less severe. But 2 years ago, it was very severe. I would walk into the store and I would essentially forget why I'm in the store. I would be driving, I'd forget why I'm driving. I would be talking, I would forget why I'm talking. Or at its most severe, when I was driving one time, this happened 2.5 years ago, and I have not really talked a lot about it, I was in a car accident because I quite literally forgot how to drive. I remember seeing a stoplight I remember seeing a stoplight, there were cars in front of me, and obviously I slowed down, otherwise they might not be here, I might not be here, it might have been a very bad accident. Because again, if you're not stopping as a stoplight is there and there's cars in front of you and you're just driving 35, 40 miles an hour, and you hit them, that's bad. So I know that I slowed down, and I remember specifically seeing the stoplight and being like, oh, it's a stoplight, slow down. And then black, quite literally black, I don't remember what the fuck happened next. And then boom, I remember boom, and the boom being the car hitting the car in front of me. And me literally not knowing what the fuck just happened. I was slowing down, and then right before the blackout, I remember very briefly, me in my mind thinking, if I want to slow down, how do I slow down further? Like, how do I brake? It's one of these pedals down here, I think. And it was me questioning or me wondering, I forgot how to drive. I forgot how to brake. But more so, it was weird because there was another part of me, again, this is all happening outside of my body. It feels like it's outside of me. I'm having a conversation with myself thinking, you know how to brake. You know how to drive. Just brake. And then that's me telling me, just brake. And then me telling me again, saying, I don't know how to brake. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Tell me how to brake. I don't remember. Just brake, like you press the brake. What's the brake? So it's me, So it's me arguing back and forth with myself over that, and then boom, crash. That it's probably the most severe form or most severe case of dissociation that I've had. I'd say the most frequent form or the most frequent examples of dissociation that I've experienced is I will start, I think I've said it on here, I'll have a conversation. It's not just that I forget what I'm saying or what we were talking about or the subject matter, where all of a sudden I just get this out-of-body experience and I'm just thinking to myself, and sometimes I'll say out loud, I feel funny, I feel spacey, and it just happens. And I do forget what the subject matter is, but more so I forget that I'm just here and living. But it doesn't, and again, I'm saying it's less severe, but now that it comes out my mouth, it's pretty severe. But it happens at least once a week. I feel just, trying to think of an example. Well, if you've ever experienced a high, regardless of how you've experienced that high, but a high from a substance, recreationally or medicinally or whatever, if you've ever been put under when you have surgery, it's the feeling when you wake back up and you're like, you think to yourself, I remember getting this anesthetic, but I don't remember falling asleep, and I don't remember the surgery, but I know it happened, like what's going on? Or for those people who are normal, who have not had the surgeries or who have not done substances, it's the feeling of when you're really, really, really sleepy and you fall asleep as soon as you sit down. But you don't realize you fall asleep. You just wake up and you're like, fuck just happened? You have no idea what time it is, you have no idea where you are, and it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to kind of like, it's that feeling, except it's happening to me as I'm doing life. Speaking, trying to do work, getting food, making food, and I wouldn't say that it hurts, but it's an annoyance / sometimes it's scary because when I'm in that out-of-body experience, when I'm having that fog, when I'm having that difficult understanding, it's scary because I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening, I'm confused and I'm foggy, and I am not sure if I'm safe or if I should be threatened. Like, I'm not sure if I should have my guard up. I have no idea what's happening, quite literally. So I am afraid because it's like I feel vulnerable, as though someone could attack me. It's kind of how it feels, which is the scary part and the uncomfortable part. But because you're so confused and so foggy, you also don't have the ability to even feel like defense. Like, you can't even put your defenses up. You can't be scared because you're confused about what you should be scared about, but you are scared. Dissociation is so confusing. Another thing I should point out is that while this is in response to traumatic events, traumatic times in one's life, it happens a lot to people who have developed mental illnesses or dissociative disorders. You develop dissociative disorders in response to traumatic life events, traumatic memories, especially within childhood. I have complex trauma. I have complex trauma that happened throughout my childhood since birth until, has the trauma really stopped happening? To 18, like my childhood is literally full of trauma, emotional trauma and neglect. I dissociate sometimes randomly. It's not always in response to stress, at least not directly. I think that the majority of the time, either I'm just not thinking about it, so maybe I can't reflect on it and pinpoint and connect the dots. But sometimes I feel like things are fine, and then I just dissociate for no reason. And that's why it's kind of annoying. But sometimes it does happen in terms of stress and what's going on in my life. I think the first time that I can remember fully doing it was when my best friend, Sarah, she passed away when I was in high school, but I found out she was, gonna pass away. I found out she was gonna pass away, and I was in school, I was walking down the hallway, and I just stopped. I don't remember, but I do remember being like, yeah, that's all I can say about that. That's when that happened. And then it happened again post that time when life it was right before I went to a partial hospitalization program. I could not feel what I was feeling. I was thinking about my mom having passed away, my friend passing away. I was thinking that I was gonna be abandoned and left alone. But sometimes it just feels random. Sometimes I dissociate and it's almost annoying because I'm telling myself, why am I dissociating? Why is this happening right now? It's a good day, it's a good week, it's a good month, I'm happy. Bitch, get it together up there. And that's the annoying, weird part. It just happens. I think back 3 years ago, again, 3 years ago, my life was a lot worse. I'm recovering from childhood trauma and I'm recovering from 3 years ago. I was dissociating a lot, to the point where it was hindering my life with friends, family, work, especially because I would just you can't work if you can't have thoughts and gaps, and you have gaps if you're glitching. If you're fucking glitching, you can't do shit. So I literally could not do shit. Trying to make dinner, it's the thought process of, fuck, I know how to turn the oven on, but I can't turn the oven on. How do I turn the oven on? And trying to figure out, but you know how to turn the oven on. You know how to do these things, and it was the simplest tasks: turning the oven on, walking, not breathing, thank fucking God, but typing, things that you do every single day. You don't even have to think about. I had to then think about, even if it was only for a few seconds, which, mind you, is significant because 3-second delays on walking. Imagine you having a 3-second, you're walking and then you forget how to walk and you're like thinking about it. Even if it's 3 seconds, it still looks weird. It's things that should be natural like that, but they just were delayed in my mind because I would forget, or I would be like, it just, yeah. It sucked. Now, to answer some of the questions that y'all have had about this, when I dissociate, I think I've talked a little bit about it. When I dissociate, sometimes I do notice myself about to dissociate, and I think I've said it at times in videos. I know that things start to slow down. All of a sudden, it's just things, life seems to slow down. My thought process starts to slow down. I can see the thoughts I was about to say, and I can see, what I wanted to say. I can see the subject matter. It's just floating further and further away from me, and I can feel that, and I can sense that, and it's like, again, I can only really compare it to fucking substances. It's the come up. It feels like the come up. It feels like something is slowly working, and it's like, it's right there, don't leave, come back. And it's like you're trying to grab it, but you can't. Sometimes I feel that way. Sometimes it just hits me like that, and it's like, okay, fuck, what's going on? In terms of not dissociating or not having that experience, they say that therapy, and there's some antipsychotics that will help with that. I have not really thought about, any exercises that can help me. I haven't really done any exercises or thought of any exercises that can help me get back to normal or get me to recenter myself. I kind of just write it out because it doesn't last that long. Typically, it doesn't last that long. That's kind of that you think that maybe that's not the best thing, the best strategy, but I don't know what's going on. And I'm pretty sure there are strategies and there are ways to help dissociation while you're doing it or right before you do it, or if I'm feeling that mode where I can sense myself, okay, wait, what's happening? I'm about to dissociate. When I can sense it, I'm pretty sure there are practices, but quite literally, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. I'm trying to figure out what, like, am I about to die right now? Because I don't know what's happening. I know I'm dissociating, but I only know I'm dissociating because I know I'm confused. And that confusion happens. I can't really think about anything else besides I'm really confused right now. What is going on? Am I in my house? Am I not in my house? Am I here? So I'm not really thinking about anything else besides that because I'm worried, like, do I need to be, armed up? So no, I don't. I just kind of write it out, and it lasts however long it lasts, and then I'm able to sort of recenter myself. I think breathing helps a lot with that, recentering myself, and you're, looking at where I am and just trying to figure out where the fuck is going on is how I recenter myself. And I think that's sort of the spectrum I've briefly touched on throughout this video, is that for me, dissociation really happens in a spectrum. Sometimes it's severe, sometimes it's not, but I can't really say, I can't really pinpoint a pattern as to when it's not and when it is. I think sleep plays an important role, being on a medication plays an important role, what's happening in my life, stressful life events. Dissociating more so in the dissociative amnesia part, there are parts of my childhood where I've realized, unfortunately, that I've forgotten about. And I knew that they happened, but it's more so that I forgot that they happened, but I knew that they happened. An example being that I forgot as a kid, For whatever reason, because of the custody battle that I was in the middle of and in some agreement, I used to have to go to the office, like the principal's office or the main office at my school as an elementary school student, and have conversations with my biological father. That was happening every Friday. I don't remember how long that happened for, but it was some safety. It was some weird shit, I know that. And I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. It was weird to experience that, like as a child having to do that, and that was that's how I talked to my father, that's how I engaged with him. And I don't remember, I blocked that out. A lot of my childhood, I blocked out unknowingly. And it's not like I forgot about it. It's not that I forgot I was in the middle of a custody battle half my childhood, but I forgot about it in the sense that I don't think about it as much as I used to, or it's weird because it was the main big thing. It was such a huge thing on my childhood. It encompassed everything. Everything was about that for years and years and years. So for me to not have thought about that consciously from 2015 to like 2019, I think is weird. You know, it's consciously, I did not think about it. It just didn't cross my mind. And then all of a sudden one day, it's like, oh fuck, yeah, we had this was an issue, oh my fucking God. And there's a lot of examples like that when it comes to the amnesia part, just forgetting things that happened within my childhood. I don't know how to explain it. It's a different type of forgetting. It's not that I forgot, oh, I met so-and-so at this point in time in my life. It's forgetting in a sense that, like when you remember these things, it's a moment. When you remember that, when you remember what you've forgotten, and in these specific cases that I'm talking about in this type of scenario, it's not the same remembrance that you get when you forgot that you had a burger last Thursday. And I wish I could put it into better terms, but I can't, because you have to feel it and experience it. It's one big fog, one big memory, it's one big wild ass fucking brain trip. I had to work on figuring out how to explain this better because I can't. I think I need to make more videos on this eventually once I come up with better ways of explaining, but that in a nutshell is how dissociation has felt for me. That's what dissociation is. I'm living with complex trauma, bipolar disorder, anorexia disorder, I have panic disorder, I have ADHD, and I think the ADHD and bipolar disorder combined, along with all the other ones, have really made me like experience this dissociativeness throughout the last few years. Hopefully that helps you if you've been like wondering how you, like, do I dissociate? Or are you dissociating? How does it feel? It's something that I know that I can't really control, and it's just been a thing. It's something I've been learning to live with. There's a lot more aspects of it that I want to get into, but I might make that for a membership only video in terms of legality, policeness, like police legality and all that. I just can't talk about it. Just to the general public. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment. I'd love to hear from y'all. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. I'd love to hear about your experiences. I might not respond right away, but I do look at them, and especially y'all who comment regularly, I look at all of that. And most importantly, remember to subscribe so you can figure out when I'm uploading new videos. I'm trying to do this more regularly. Hopefully I'm succeeding. Do y'all think I'm succeeding? I don't know. Until next time, y'all. Peace.